It is Wednesday. Welcome in everyone again for another episode of What's Bruin. It's your host Chris and Gayle. Gayle, Bruins are in second place in the Atlantic on a 7-game win streak. Pastrnak just passed 400 goals. What's to be down about with this team now?
Personally, nothing. And I'd like to point out that they're actually points wise, they're tied for first, but Montreal's played obviously less games, which is why they're in first place. Huge game on Saturday because they're playing Montreal.
Yes.
But as you said, what's not to like? I personally think there's nothing to not like other than the injuries, right? Unfortunately, there's going to be many of people out there that are having meltdowns about this team. But yeah, I have nothing to complain.
I wonder if Kevin wants them to win yet.
No, Kevin still wants them to lose because regardless of whether or not it's sexy on paper, this team, like I said in the off season, if it stays healthy, this team has a shot of going deep in the playoffs.
I mean, apparently, even if they don't completely stay healthy, Beecher, Harris, Lindholm, Middlestat, Lindholm earlier in the season. I mean, granted, that's their worst stretch of hockey, but that also happened. I think that happened to just coincide with the fact that they weren't getting any practice time as they're learning a whole new system.
And they went into Toronto without their full lineup and beat the Leafs 5-3. They still don't have their same line, huh?
I didn't like yesterday's game, how they let them back in the game towards the end there, but they held on.
I think in the second period after Pastrnak scored to make it 4-1, 49 seconds, I think they kind of backed off a little bit. McMahon, got them within 2 late in the second. But I didn't think that game was going to go to overtime.
I didn't think so.
I thought that the Bruins I thought they were going to score another goal, especially when they had that late power play. I thought they were going to make it 6-3. But I'm happy with the outcome.
They got a little loose once they got that fourth goal, and then but they recognized it. They tightened right back up.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to see. So I'm nitpicking. I will 100% admit I am nitpicking the little things. But when you're on a 7-game heater, that's what you got to do.
Well, let's see. If you want to nitpick, let's nitpick about the fact that the whole team got on the ice when Pastrnak scored his 400th goal. I'm not crying about it, but certainly a lot of people were.
Which I don't get why. First of all, who freaking cares?
Right.
Who cares? It's not like it was goal 399, or it's not like the goal ended up coming back on review or anything like that. That was a clear goal. It was a clear milestone goal. He's on pace to become the all-time scorer in Bruins history when it's all said and done. So, celebrate it.
Right.
Who cares? Who cares?
And it's not like Pasta. It's not like Pasta's like, come on. Like, Pasta, honestly, I don't know if you saw after, he was like, I didn't know if we were going to get a penalty. Like,
right. He was worried about a freaking penalty.
Right.
So, it was organic, too. That's the other thing is it wasn't planned. It wasn't anything. Right. It was an organic moment that, like you said, shows just how close this team has gotten. And let's not get carried away. They're going to lose at some point.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to lose at some point. But it's not going to deter them, and it's not going to be an 8-1 ass whooping like last year.
Right. And they're not going to go on another 6-game losing streak.
Probably not. I don't foresee that happening.
I don't see a 6-game.
Time.
Maybe a couple of losses back to back, I can see that happening. But they're not going to go on a jump off a bridge losing streak.
I wouldn't be surprised if this team doesn't lose 3 straight anymore. They might, like you said, lose back to back, and then have a win. And you know what I mean? Like, it also, you also have to look at everyone they're playing against, because Ottawa right now, very beatable tomorrow. Very
Right.
beatable. And until they get fully healthy and they're back on track, like I think we're seeing Ottawa for what they really are. They're a little bit above 500 and they're going to be in that wild card race again, but you should be able to beat them even when they're fully healthy.
Right.
We're seeing Montreal is back to being one of the better teams in the division. So that's going to be, like you said, huge game on Saturday. Montreal's really the team to worry about in the division right now because they're young. They have a little bit of taste from the playoffs last year, and they have high talent, but they also have physical players in the same way that you do. You really think Arbor Jackeye is going to back down from anybody on your roster right now?
Well, and I think we need to also look at the fact that once healthy, Florida is going to be in that group as well.
Once healthy, it's just my question is, one, where are they when they get healthy? And two, when these players start coming back, how long is it going to take them to get back into the lineup and get back up to speed?
But let's look at the year. Was it the year of the historic season or the year before? One of the two, I can't remember. Florida was in an awful spot until like January. And then
That would have been the year before because
and
that
then
was,
they
or no, it
ju-
was because that was the year they squeaked in.
right. And then they just went on a tear. What? Because they got healthy.
Yes, I would normally agree with you, but that team was not coming off of back-to-back Stanley Cup victories and having the most hockey played in the last 4 seasons than any other team.
Right, but let's also remember though that a lot of their players that they're missing are the players that have been playing the most hockey. You know what I mean? And they have such an impact to this team. But let's not go down that rabbit hole of the Florida Panthers.
I'm just saying that's my worry for them. How long will it take to get guys like Tkachuk? I mean, Tkachuk it's a groin injury, so if he comes back too soon, very easily could re-aggravate it.
Right.
No 6 out for a while. Kulikov, upper body. Barkov is the knee. They're already talking about the time frames being rushed based on standard time frames for his knee injury. So, you rush one of those two guys back, Barkov or Tkachuk, and it could prove to be fatal.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa is kind of middling in the middle right now. They're a team that if they get hot could be worrisome, but Toronto looks as bad as Buffalo right now. I'm not worried about them at all.
And my biggest thing about Toronto, they can't blame Sheldon Keefe. They can't blame Mitch Marner. They're not there anymore. They have to look at what's going on in Toronto.
They are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to do a bigger sell-off than Boston did last year if they want to have any semblance of a quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to decide to do that sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto's the last place finisher in the division behind Buffalo at this point.
I know.
Because remember, Buffalo's turning it around.
Yeah.
And Buffalo's getting better, and they don't have Darlene right now.
Right.
So
can we go back and talk about the two Bruins Leafs matchups?
Oh, yes.
We
can absolutely talk about those.
Because that Zadorov has become public enemy number 1. Just like Chara used to be public enemy number 1 in Montreal, right?
So it must be the letter Z.
Yeah, it must be because first he knocked out Lawton. Clean hit, by the way.
Yeah.
And everyone's blaming him for Matthews going down the tunnel. When Matthews went down to the room after he retaliated and tried to lay a hit on Zadorov and moved and basically went into a brick wall.
Yeah. It doesn't help that both Stolars and Waller are now at least day to day. They're hurting. Tanev is out. They're really going through it. But like you said, that was a clean hit on Scott Lawton. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Matthews hurt himself going back after him. So,
Hi, Dom.
Dom says I have to nitpick about this team. Don Cherry is not on Hockey Night in Canada to talk about this team. Hi, Gayle and Mr. Chris. I'm sending you a message. Oh boy, I'll have to see what he has here.
Listen, we don't get Hockey Night in Canada in the U.S., so I can't
believe me. I wish we did.
Can't help you with Don Cherry.
I wish we did get Hockey Night in Canada, though. At least as an option. So, but I mean, I do find it funny that everyone's all upset, or at least Toronto fans are upset about the hit on Lawton because it was clean. And as much as they want to be upset about Austin Matthews, can I also say, hey, we almost lost our goaltender to a puck to the head because they decided to have someone knock off his helmet with their elbow. Like, they're lucky that was exactly where it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'd be having the conversation of what happens if Swayman goes down.
Well, what I was
I'm hiding now.
We'd be having the conversation about whether or not it was intentional that he knocked the helmet off.
Well, I mean, knowing Craig Berube, yes.
Which is a whole other can of worms. The NHL has got to be really freaking glad is not open right now.
Right. Well, I mean, he cried again about this Zadorov hit. He cried. He likes to bait the refs. He likes to bait the league. You know, he won't get fined, though, because he's Craig Berube, just like Paul Maurice. Never gets fined.
Let's see. Oh, Dom was forwarding me something that he posted yesterday where it was prospect Kirill Yamyalanov with 3:17 remaining in their game that they were winning 3-0 was given a 5-minute major for kicking and a game misconduct after the refs reviewed the call. So I'm sure that's going to be interesting. I'll have to go watch and see that replay. But you know, Dom, always looking at the future bees. So let's see. Steve jumps in. What about the almost knee to knee on McAvoy? Was that intentional? I mean, we've seen a couple hits that, I mean, yeah, they know what they're doing out there.
Right.
You know, I do think it's hilarious though that the Maple Leafs decided to hitch their wagon to Anthony Stolarz. You know, a guy who's never started more than 35 games in his entire career and basically relies on being big and bulky in the goal. He reminds me of, you remember the insurance commercial with the walrus in goal?
Yes.
Did you notice? Tell me you saw a difference between him and Hildeby in net. The way they move. Hildeby has skill, talent, and reads the play. Stolarz is just there.
Listen, his ankles got broken, though, on David Pasternak's 400th goal.
Oh, yeah. No, Hildeby didn't have a chance. But you also got to remember, he's coming in cold. He's coming in cold after the first period. Steve adds it. I live in Ontario. All the Toronto stations are talking about firing the coach and getting rid of the GM. I love it. I mean,
listen, they held on to Sheldon Keefe for how many years? They're not getting rid of Berube yet.
They held on to Kyle Dubas for how long? They held on to Brendan Shanahan for how long? Yeah, but
Kyle Dubas was not a bad GM.
No, look what he's doing with Pittsburgh.
Kyle Dubas was not a bad GM. Kyle Dubas, like Don Sweeney, gets ridiculed when a team he puts together doesn't perform. There is no reason why that those teams that he put together of Tavares and Matthews and Marner and Nylander and all of those teams that he put together, how many years were they together? and they only won 2 playoff rounds.
Yeah, there was always a piece missing, but he was able to go and get that piece. I mean, they brought in Ryan O'Reilly, and Ryan O'Reilly didn't want to stay there with that group.
Right.
I'm sorry, but he wants to stay in Nashville more than he wanted to stay in Toronto. And Nashville, last time I checked, nowhere close to the playoff position that Toronto's been in for the last 10 years. What does that tell you?
Right.
Like, and as soon as Kyle Dubas says, we've got to consider trading someone out of this core 4 group to get what we're missing and to fill everything else out the way we need to, that's when they ship him out. Let's see. Dom says, I'm wondering, when the Bruins traded Carlo to Toronto, there were a lot, and I mean a lot of Bruins fans saying they should have asked for Easton Cowan instead of Minton. I wonder what they think now. I'm pretty sure all of them are fairly falling in love with Fraser Minton. So
Bruins fans are just never happy.
Nope, they are not. And that's what makes it very funny. Dom says, I never thought Cowan should have been a first-round pick. I mean, I think he's got a lot of talent, but there's definitely something missing there that he's not. And I do think a lot of Bruins fans give the Bruins crap for the way they develop players, but Toronto's in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, who would you rather have right now if you're Boston in your organization? Would you rather have Easton Cowan or Fabian Lysell?
I'm not ready to give up on Fabian Lysell, so
I'm not either.
I want him.
I'm not either. I'd rather have Fabian Lysell because it's a position of need as he's developing into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm glad to see the trade Lorei discourse is kind of dwindling down a little bit.
Well, I think it really helped that he came back and it wasn't like Sturm said, all right, I'm putting you back in. He had no choice. McAvoy didn't make the trip, everything, you know what I mean? So he kind of had no choice, and he responded just like Casey Middlestat responded. He responded just like Kusadinov responded. He responded just like John Beecher responded. They've all responded to Marco Sturm. And I think that him playing on the third pairing, because McAvoy and Zadorov have been playing together, has helped Lorei, because 1, he's not on the ice as often, and 2, there's no pressure being in that third pairing.
Yeah, they're able to really shelter his minutes. I think the way that Zadorov and McAvoy have been playing, to your point, like, why on earth would you separate them?
Correct.
You wouldn't. And
Right.
The fact that it wasn't that, McAvoy was the one who had to stay home, had a personal reason in that game against Toronto, which was fine. I think the fact that it was McAvoy who missed the game almost kind of gave them reason to say, you're going in on third pair. We're going to shelter your minutes in this game. And then he had success. He had, 2 points that game, I think, and played like 15, 16 minutes or something like that and looked good. And so they just said, same team, same position, go do it again. Show me you can do it again, and then keep showing me. And we'll see.
So he's played just over 14 and a half minutes in both games against Toronto. In Saturday night's game, he had 2 assists. He was a +2. Last night's game, he had 1 assist, even. He had 22 shifts, 19 shifts last night. I mean, he definitely, that's a big difference from going, from playing 20 minutes to just over 14 minutes.
Right. No, 100%. But he's looked good. He's looked
he's definitely looked much better in those past 2 games. And, I was the one that I was like, how much are you going to give him? How much are you going to give him? he's shutting me up for now.
But so is everybody that's been benched. And Dom points out Fabian Liesel's on the fourth line tonight for Providence, which Fabian Liesel was actually benched a couple games ago. I think a lot of people overlooked that because obviously with injuries and stuff, they've been wanting, Matthew Poitras to get called up, Fabian Liesel to get called up. And it's the former Leaf, Alex Steves, who gets called up, fills in for Middlestat in both games.
Right.
Second game gets his goal, which I just love the way he just smirked at Stolarz. So it was good to see him get that chance against his former team, but his game fit better for how Middlestat was playing the second line left wing role, and that's why he got the call up. And go ahead. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
There was a lot of people who were saying they should have called up Poitras and then kicked Zacha over and this and that and whatever. But in a situation that they were in, going to Toronto, looking to call up one person. Remember, Beecher was already hurt, so you're making the substitution of Vielle in for Beecher, who's also playing really, really well, by the way. More on Vielle in a little bit. But you're already making this switch, a double switch on defense. McAvoy out, Lohrei back in, and you're shifting Aspero over to his offhand. Why are you going to do additional shakeups on the front end that you don't have to do when you have an option where you can unplug someone and plug someone in who's playing stylistically very similar?
Well, and then the other thing is that Sturm is very much on pairs, not lines. So you have Zacher and Iverson still together. Why are you going to move? And it's been working with Zacha in the middle.
Yep.
Iverson has been scoring more with Zacha in the middle. Middlestat's been scoring more with Zacha in the middle. So why are you going to mess with that just to bring up Matthew Poitras?
Who, by the way, in Providence has been struggling.
Right.
He had 1 4-point game early in the season. And I get it, we're still early in the season, but it was like the second or third game. And beyond that, he's only had like 2 or 3 points.
Right.
He's got 1 goal.
Right.
He might have 2 by now, but it was an overtime game winner on Saturday. That was his first goal of the season.
Right.
So it's not even like he's doing a lot he doesn't have 10 assists or whatever. Like Liesel and Poitras were not the two to get called up. And at that point, you're talking Riley Tufte. You're not putting him second line left wing, and how pissed would we have heard people be if Tanner Jeannot was the left wing on that line, just so Vielle and Tufte could be put in the lineup.
Right.
And of course that's another double switch that you're making. So, and as Don points out, scoring chances for and against with Lohrei on the ice tells a story. Absolutely. Absolutely there. So, actually Providence is getting ready to drop the puck here in like 5-10 minutes. So that one should be a good one to watch as they're taking on Hartford they're at home. So in Providence should be a good one.
That's a rare midweek matchup.
Zajaczek's getting the start. It looks like for Providence, he's looked really good in his transition over. So, next year when we're talking Bruins goaltending depth and people are all upset because DiPietro got let go for nothing, we'll see it all again. So
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut because we're talking way too far in the future.
Yeah. Anyway, the defense looks so much better. This is what they can be. We've seen the worst they can be. We've seen the best they can be. Let's be honest, they are somewhere in the middle.
But they're closer to the best than they are the worst.
Because they have the character guys to be that way.
Correct. So, but you make it sound like that's a bad thing.
No, I'm not. No, sorry. It's not a bad thing by any stretch.
The tone of your voice are like, well, because
No, sorry.
Let's be realistic. They are not going to win 65 games, right? They're not going to run away.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
They're not going to win 65 games, but they're also not going to be a bubble team. You know, they are not a bubble team. This team is not going to be fighting for a wild card. This team is going to be fighting for the division lead all season long. They're not going to be fighting for a wild card. The only way they end up fighting for a wild card is if David Pastrnak or Morgan Geekie gets injured. That's it. And they're out long term.
I still can see them finishing in the top wild card spot, third in the division or second in the division, and here's why. Because every other team, they've played more games than anybody else in this division.
Yep.
And Detroit right now has 2 fewer games than them. So if they were to win those games, now all of a sudden you're putting Boston in third. Because Detroit's only 4 points back. So like as some of these teams, we talked about Florida, you know, Buffalo and Toronto, I agree. They're totally headed the wrong direction. But Florida, if they get healthy, has a chance, depending on when they get healthy and how players look when they get healthy. Detroit has a chance to hang around. Tampa has a chance to hang around as well and steal a couple of games from the Bruins. Dom says
there
the Bruins.
Is. Thank you, Steve.
Dom says the Boston London Knights Bruins, and Gayle, Steve says, Gayle, I love you. I hope you're right. Listen, I hope you're right too. I don't want to have to stress about this team making the playoffs.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna go. I don't care about any other team. The Bruins are in their own destiny right now, right? So let's not. Oh, but if Detroit, if this, if that. No, let's talk about the Bruins. Let's talk about how the Bruins are embracing Marco Sturm's system, how the Bruins have tightened up defensively, have gotten scoring by committee, which is something that Cam Neely and Don Sweeney have said from the get-go. Victor Arvidsson is becoming the player that you wanted him to be with the shots on goal, and some of them are finding the back of the net now. Fraser Minten is starting to get a little bit better. You look at the fact that with Elias Lindholm out, instead of moving Zacha up, Sturm took a chance on Husadinov, who's thriving in that role. Where's the downside? Your third and fourth line is very responsible. They're leading the league. They're the top of the league in face-off percentage.
I didn't say there's a massive downside. I'm just sitting here going, you have to. You're looking at them in a bubble, and that bubble's not wrong.
I'm not looking at them in a bubble. I'm looking at them. What I'm saying is, you can't. So,
what you just described is an impermeable team, and what I would also go to add, because I'm not disagreeing with anything that you just said. In fact, I'm going to add to it and say they have more depth than any fan will give them credit for, because you have what you have down in Providence. Think about the guys that we've talked about that you haven't called up yet. VL is a great fit for your bottom six if you need someone who, if you lost Kastelik for a while, you know what I mean? Like if you lost Beecher for a while, you have these guys that you can call up. You haven't even touched Merkulov or Poitras or Lysell or who am I thinking of? Oh crap! Why can't I think of Riley Duran? Like he got some time last year. Are these guys that you're going to rely on for a long period of time?
Okay,
no.
So, but you're talking about Detroit. You're talking about Detroit. Detroit's played 16 games, only 2 games less than the Bruins, right?
Yep, and they're only 4 points out.
And their last 10, they're 4-6-0.
Right, and they're on a 3-game losing streak.
What?
And they're on a 3-game losing streak too.
Right. So,
as Don points out, hasn't Detroit begun their slump?
The only team that's been performing the way the Bruins have is Anaheim.
Colorado
is 6-1-3 in their last 10. The Bruins and Anaheim are both 8-2-0.
with Colorado, though, they're not losing games. That's why I put them in that group.
No, I said perform 6-1-3. I understand like 3 overtime losses. Those are still points left on the board.
Sure. But the season's not over.
I'm not saying it is, but what I'm saying is, though, is that you got to just look at what the Bruins are doing. They're on a 7-game winning streak, number one, after going on a 6-game losing streak, which, by the way, during those 6 games, they had no practice. They had no practice. They were missing Hampus Lindholm. Then Elias Lindholm went down. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, you got Hampus back, so you're able to put Zadorov with McAvoy. Their defense is tightened up. Their goaltending is better. And their goals, 62 goals for, 59 goals against. Okay. They're still winning games.
Yes, I know. I'm not discounting anything that you're saying. All right. And they got 3 home games left the entire rest of the month. They've got at Ottawa, at Montreal this week. And then they go on their West Coast road trip, Anaheim, LA, San Jose, and then hit the Islanders on the way back. All right. Now, based on what you're saying, as far as this is what they're doing, how well they're playing, I'm not disagreeing with what they're doing. They have to keep it up the entire season. They can't have any letdowns. They can't have anything like that's going to happen.
But no. So they're going to lose games. They're not going to win every single game from here on out. They're going to lose games. We just talked about, you just said they're not going to lose 3 games in a row again this season.
I said I could see that happening, first of all.
Right.
But that also doesn't mean they're not going to lose multiple games. So, do I see them? I see them winning in Ottawa just because the way they are playing right now, the way Ottawa is playing right now, I don't see Ottawa being the team that ends this streak. I think they can lose easily on Saturday in Montreal if they're not careful. It's going to be a hell of a game.
Any game. It doesn't matter who their opponent is. If they don't show up and play on time, they can lose any game. So you saying, Ottawa's not going to end the streak. Ottawa's the one that started the bad streak.
Yes, but Ottawa was playing way better at the time than what they are right now. The Bruins were playing way worse at the time than what they're playing right now. And Ottawa doesn't have the ability, or they can't hold off what we saw the Bruins do was hold off Toronto last night. They allowed Toronto to get back in the game. They allowed them to get within 1. Toronto just doesn't have the fortitude in their ability mentally to push back further against Boston and actually tie that game.
I love you, Dom.
62-1-1 the rest of the way. The Bruins, if they were behind in that game against Toronto, the way they're playing, as soon as they are within 1, you sit there and look at the way they're playing and go, they have a chance to tie it. If they tie it, then they have a chance to win it. Toronto, you don't see that same opportunity right now. Boston, if they get behind in, say, Montreal has a much better ability to keep them at bay than Ottawa does, than Toronto does. Carolina, same thing. They have a much better ability to shut you down than other teams do. So there's going to be a time where they don't score 3, 4, 5 goals, and those are the losses that are going to start to add up at some point. I'm not saying they're not a playoff team. I'm not saying they shouldn't be a playoff team. All I'm saying is this isn't a team that's going to compete for first place in the division by the end of the year. Water will find its level again. It will. We've seen it swing.
100% disagree with you that you don't think that they're going to be fighting for the division title.
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure.
I said in the off season, and anyone that watches us weekly knows that before the season started, I said this team was going to be fighting for the division. And I'm still sticking by that, because this team, it may not be sexy, but this team is deeper than a lot of other teams, number one. Number two, their goaltending, now that their defense is tightened in front of them, Swayman and Corpusalo they're not losing games because goaltending. They're losing games because of team defense. And they haven't had bad team defense since
recently,
the turnaround. Since the turnaround. And I 100% still believe this team is going to be fighting for the division. 100%. 100%. You can mark it down, November 12th, 7:08 p.m. I'm again saying it. When we are in April, the Bruins are going to be fighting for the division. They're not a wild card team.
I hope you're right. And what I'm saying is I'm not ready to put them there yet, because I haven't seen enough from the rest of the division to say they're all below that much.
But that's the whole thing that you have to remember, Chris. Last year, the Bruins were not in control of their own destiny.
I mean,
right? Because they were that bad that they weren't in control of their own destiny. Right now, they're tied with Montreal in points. The only reason why Montreal's ahead of them is because Montreal has games in hand. So
everybody has games in hand on them, though. Like, everybody has games in hand on them. They have played more games than anybody in the entire league.
That's not true. There's a bunch of teams that have played 18 games. There are a bunch of teams that have already played 18 games. It's not just the Bruins.
Vancouver, Calgary, Minnesota, and Nashville are all out in the Western Conference. And they've all played the same number. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Minnesota, Nashville. No one in the Metro has played more than 17 games. And no one else in your division has played more than 17. So a bunch of teams, sure, but they're all out west. You don't compete with them until the final.
Right. But you're making it seem like there's 4 and 5 games. There's 1 and 2 games. Most of the teams in the East have played at least 16, 17 games. There aren't that very many. There's only Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, and Buffalo that have played 15. Oh my God, that's so important. They only have one more game against Buffalo. They only have one more game against Toronto.
Yeah. Which means it's going to be out of their control. They can't beat the teams in their division later. They're beating them now, which is good.
But they already have a lead on these teams. So they don't have to, as long as they keep beating the other teams.
They have to maintain it. That's what I'm saying. Oh my God. I'm saying they have to maintain it. I am agreeing.
Your glass is half empty. I'm half full. That's the difference between me and you. You're half empty. I'm half full.
I'm just telling you what I see this team as in comparison to the rest of the division. If I'm looking at it solely from one perspective of what is this team, I don't disagree with anything that you've said. All I'm asking is, can they keep it up against the other 7 teams in their division and the other 31 teams across the league? They still have to win the games they are supposed to win. If they continue to do that, then yes, they will be in contention for the playoff spot at the top of the division. I got to see more of it. That's all I'm saying. Dom says his glass is overflowing. Well, being up in Canada after this back-to-back home and home series, I can only imagine how that feels for him. So Kenny chimes in, and he asks, what do you do with Liesel at this point? Haven't watched, but hearing not great things. What have you heard anything from anybody in the realm of Fabian Liesel or anything like that? I
haven't heard anything, to be honest with you.
I think it's the same discourse that we normally hear about him. He's been benched, as I mentioned earlier in the show. He's back in the lineup, as Dom pointed out. He's on the fourth line tonight. I think it's easy for a young player like him to see other young players like a Fraser Mitten, Marat Husnadinov, and basically say, like, I'm good enough to be with them, and I could and should be up there. I think it's hard for a player of that age to look at the large picture and see that at some point he will get the tap on his shoulder to say, your turn, and he needs to be ready for it. It's tough, but he's 22, I think, off the top of my head. I don't even remember how old he is anymore off the top of my head, but he's still young. Like, there is a level of developing him as a person that they're working on to get him to who he should be. And Dom says at this point, Brett Harrison is surpassing Lysell.
So, but I'll use 2 examples. Okay.
Go ahead.
2 examples. And I've said this before. I don't know if it was on this podcast or what, but I've said this before. There are some players that are just AHL players. They just don't have what it takes to make it to the NHL. And I'll use Keith Aucoin and Chris Bourque as my 2 examples. Chris Bourque, when he retired as Hershey's all-time leading points and goals. Could never get it going in the NHL. Just couldn't. Keith Aucoin is in the AHL Hockey Hall of Fame. Never could get it going in the NHL. There are just players that are good enough at hockey to play in the minors. They just can't make it to the NHL. And Fabian Lysell may be one of those kids. I know he's only 22.
Yeah, 22.
But he hasn't cracked the lineup yet and sustained it to be able to be like if there was ever going to be a shot, it was this year. With the roster that they put together, this was the year. With Mitten, Husnadinov, them making the roster over him, this was the year. It was supposed to be his year. And he obviously didn't cut it in camp in preseason for Sturm to say, he's my guy. I want him up here.
Yeah. And
you can't blame Sweeney for that. You can't blame Cam Neely for that. I know fans like to blame Cam Neely that he makes the decisions. First of all, Cam Neely doesn't make the decisions. It's Ryan Mougenel, Marco Sturm, and Don Sweeney and Adam McQuaid that generally make those decisions of who's getting called up, what they're seeing, how they're developing. Yeah, Cam Neely could be like, he can give his opinion, but I'm not thinking that he's making the final decision when it comes to who's getting called up from Providence.
Right. Like, they may ask his input, or they may say, hey, this is who we're thinking of. This is what we're going to go with. Do you have any major objections?
I mean, let's be realistic. Is Cam Neely traveling to watch his prospects? Absolutely not. So why would they? He's focused on the NHL team. He's leaving his scouts in Adam McQuaid player development and Don Sweeney and Ryan Mougenel and the rest of the coaching staff down there to tell him what's going on. He's watching Boston, and he's watching only Boston.
Right. I'm just doing a little quick tally here.
Well, because you got 15 minutes. You had a hard out at 7:30.
Well, because Dom's comment here saying that Brett Harrison is passing Fabian Lysell, which, Dom knows I've been out on Brett Harrison for a while, and yes, he is starting to really come around. I'm just trying to calculate his points real quick. So Brett Harrison has like 47 points in 102 games with Providence. over the past 4 seasons. This is his 4th season. Meanwhile, Fabian Lysell has 93 points in 118 games down there. So they're right on par with each other, but no one is complaining about the development of Brett Harrison, even though he was the 3rd round pick. 3rd round versus 1st round. Like, not one person has made a peep other than Dom right now about Brett Harrison. And yet people want to completely give up on Fabian Lysell because they're the same age. And William puts up a point here where he says Lysell is putting up points, though. It's not all about the points. Now, if that were the case, then Riley Tufte would be called up because Fabian Lysell has 9 points in 10 games. Tufte has 14 points in 11 games. So if it was all about points, Riley Tufte would be your first call up. So it's about the position that's open on the big club, the skill set, and the role that they can fill. Murat Husnudinov made the team because they looked at him and said, maybe he can fill these other roles, but we know he can fit this bottom 6 role. And then something opened up and they said, let's give him a shot and see what he can do with Elias Lindholm out. And he's stepping up. So Kenny follows up with, so what do you do? He's an RFA at the end of the year. Despite being young, it's his 4th season in the AHL. Also, Gayle Bourque will be inducted into the AHL Hall of Fame in 2026.
That's my point with Chris Bourque. He was an AHL. He was phenomenal in the AHL. Could not crack the NHL. He's not a bad hockey player. He's just not NHL caliber.
You know who else is really, really good in the American Hockey League? Not as good in the NHL, but has seen time there? Patrick Brown.
Yeah, but I don't use him as the same skill set as Fabian Lysell. Like,
no, he's not the same skill set.
Huh?
He's not the same skill set at all, but it's the same concept.
But that's why I use the example of Keith Aucoin and Chris Bourque, because they have the same skill set. Lysell, if he gets to his potential, has the capability of being a top scorer in the AHL. He, in a way, puts himself above the team, and it creeps into his game.
Yeah, I'm very curious what Dom's honest opinion is. Yes, and can I give you my honest opinion on Lysell? I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say about Lysell. And as far as Kenny's question, first of all, I'm not saying no to any trade that involves Fabian Lysell. Like, I'm looking at it. It all depends on what I'm getting back. Like, I'm not giving him away either. But to your point, he's a restricted free agent. So, like, right now I'm just taking my time and seeing where he's at the end of the season and possibly extending him a qualifying offer. That's about it. Let's see. He says going to the Vancouver Giants was a mistake. Should have been on a team like Moncton, London, or Everett. He lost the most critical year of development in Vancouver. Quite possibly could be the case. I'm curious what it means, where he's going to be going forward. But like you said, that it's not on Don Sweeney. It's not on Cam Neely. It's not even on the scouts that he's not developing.
No, he's been given every opportunity to make this team. Guys are outplaying him to make the team.
He can skate, which is what we've known from him from day one. He's got talent. The talent is there. We see it. It's a matter of getting him not just on skates, but off skates as well, to the level he needs to be at to be a constant NHL player.
200-foot game. He lacks a 200-foot game.
Well, and to your point too, like you said, he still has those moments where, in Providence he can get away with certain moves because it's Providence, it's the American Hockey League. But holding on the puck sometimes the way he does, carrying the puck in when he has an open teammate, or taking on 2-on-1s or whatever, like, he doesn't always make the appropriate play for the moment because he's trying to push for points.
Mm-hmm.
Can he get that out of his game? He can. It's just a matter of will you? Maybe like, and not to say they're the same player, but do you remember how much we talk about how much as a person Tyler Seguin matured after he was traded to Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the kind of jolt that Fabian Lysell needs to have happen to him. Maybe he needs to realize
there are players that thrive with the change of scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Kessel did it. Phil Kessel was not a Boston Bruin player. Everyone loved Phil Kessel because he could score goals. He was not a Boston Bruins player. What I mean by that is he didn't have the character to stay by. That's a perfect example, Dom. If you could take Potter's heart and Lysell's body. It's the same thing with Kessel. He didn't have a Bruin heart. Yeah. And he went to Toronto, and he was much better in Toronto, but the problem with being in Toronto, he thought Boston media was bad. Toronto was 50 times worse. He truly found his game and became the player he should have been when he made it to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. That's really where that's where he thrived the most.
Right.
Now,
because number one, he wasn't in the spotlight because they have Crosby and Malkin. And number two, why? What the?
So you've gotten hearts, you've gotten balloons. What else have you gotten? Thumbs up?
Fireworks. Where did the balloons come from?
I have no idea.
That was weird. But so that's the problem. Like, so Seguin, he had a Bruin heart. He just didn't have the maturity.
Right. There were things that held him back. And, and it's really funny when you look back at it, because how many people were pissed when they traded Tyler Seguin?
Not me. I was like, see ya. Bye-bye.
How many people were pissed, though?
Oh,
Twitter was around. I
think I literally was the only Bruins fan that was like, see ya. Bye-bye. Because I would constantly say, in the regular season, he was fine. He was a no-show in the playoffs.
Yeah. And like, yeah, you can always look back at the trade itself and be like, okay, that wasn't the right player to get. But you can't say moving a player from your team was necessarily the wrong thing to do. Like, look at, we've referenced it plenty of times this offseason, and now look at the Joe Thornton trade. Can you argue every single piece that they got back for Joe Thornton was the right player for what they needed or for what they were expecting? No. But like, just to take a more modern example, right? Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar have not turned out to be exactly what Calgary thought they were going to be when they gave those two up for Matt Tkachuk. Mm-hmm. Now, Matt Tkachuk didn't want to be there, so you can't say getting rid of him was the mistake. They were going to lose him for nothing, the same way Toronto, and I know they got Nick Waugh out of the whole thing, but that's semantics. They were going to have Mitch Marner walk away for nothing. For nothing. Like, that's why we were talking about Kyle Dubas earlier. He wanted to make moves before those no trades kicked in. He knew he had to. He was
smartest thing Dubas ever did was say, see ya. Because he left on his own accord. Everyone forgets that. He left on his own accord.
Kenny says, how quickly do you try to move Yemulanov to North America? And Dom says he has news on that Monday. So we'll see what Dom.Hockey. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Check it out every day. Well, every day he posts something. Yeah. Anyway, Providence is on right now. As I mentioned, there were a 7:00 puck drop, so there's about 7.5. Yeah, I know. There's about 7.5 minutes left in the first. They're still tied at 0. So, what else you got here? It's been a great week for Boston. You know, Kenny and I will be doing a little bit of live tomorrow during the first period, at least during the Bruins game. We got some stuff that we can get caught up on during some prospect talk. So with that, Gayle, do you have anything on the fleet before I forget? I always forget.
Yeah, their training camp opened on Monday. It's the first time camp's been open too, by the way, to the media.
Where did they hold it?
It's at Boston Sports Institute in Wellesley. That's their training facility. That's where their home office is. Really nice facility. Met Chris Spar. He did media availability. Megan Keller, Aaron Frankel, Chloe Arud, Bushi, forgot she got married, and Alina Mueller. One thing I can say that I'm really excited about with this fleet team is Chris Spar is going to use Alina Mueller the way she should be used, and that's as a center. And reuniting her with Chloe after what they did at Northeastern is going to be huge for the fleet.
What do we know? Do we know when their season starts?
November 23rd.
So you already got it off the top of your head. I was going to look it up.
November 23rd at the Songas against Montreal.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now, do you know the time?
1 o'clock. I already said that.
Oh, you said 1?
Yeah.
Sorry. My brain is just doing my brain things. So,
that's okay.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I have a heart out. I have a meeting to jump on here shortly, but you know, like I said, it's been a hell of a week for Boston. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they keep it up for quite a while. Do you have anything that we didn't touch on?
No, but I want to say anyone that may or may not be watching or watching tomorrow, shoot me some questions on either Blue Sky or Twitter or whatnot. I'm always willing to talk and engage and debate. And then,
hey, we both are.
Listen, I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you.
I know.
But shoot me any messages. Shoot me, whatever. Keep reading. I know some people do read, some people don't, but please read. You can find me on Substack and WordPress, but shoot me some conversation. Let's have conversations. Build off of what Chris and I are building off of, because then we can bring that into our next show as well too. So
Yep. Actually, there was a point that I meant to get to. Just real quick, are you worried at all about Zadorov and his penalties?
No.
I haven't been this year. Like it's different than what we saw last year.
Last year, his penalties were, I think, the lack of knowledge in the East and the lack of knowledge in the system. And I think this year his penalties are more, I wouldn't say calculated, but they're not as, holy shit, that's a bad penalty to take. You know what I mean?
Right. And when you look at his PIMs, like he has the fight the other night, and then he has that one game, I think it was the Islanders game, where he took 3 penalties, I think, in that one play when he went after Greenway after he hurt Elias Lindholm. I think that's the play it was on. So, like, right there is 11 PIMs in 2 games.
Right.
And so it's like if you look at his PIMs and you just kind of go, all right, take those 2 games out, they're not that bad.
Well, and look at the restraint he had last night when Domi went after him.
That was brilliant. I loved it. As he's chirping him, as he's sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, don't you? And he hit withheld, and I was just like, that was the best way, because that was the penalty, the the power play they scored on.
Yeah. Domi. And I get it. Domi was like, you know what? No one else is gonna go after you. You took out our captain. You took a lot, and I need to send a message. I mean, there's quite the height difference, quite the weight difference. The fact that Zadorov never dropped his gloves is the reason why he didn't end up in the penalty box. And that showed massive restraint. And I will take that any day of the week.
Absolutely. A great level of maturity right there for him. So
Yep.
with that, we will be back next week. There you go. Now you're perfecting how they happen and when you want them to. So there you go.
Thanks
With
for
that
watching,
though,
guys.
we will be back next week, 6:30. And in the meantime, go Bees.